The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondell. Tonight, our guests are an amazing emo-rock band out of the talent-rich city of Toronto. Their name is NAKEDBURN, and their powerful sound has amassed a large following, and they're just getting started. So we have with us tonight frontman Matt Guarrasi and guitarist Luc Chiasson. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. It's so nice to have you guys. I've been really checking you guys out, your videos on YouTube. And before we get into that, I really want to start with you, Matt, because I know you formed the band in 2023. It was originally going to be a solo project, but then, talk about how the band really got formed.
So basically, I had met our old producer, Dan, doing some video work, and he was doing some audio work. And I had told him, because he was super into like pop punk and stuff like that, and I had told him like, yeah, I've been like writing and demoing these like emo songs like in my room or whatever, and I kind of want to try to record them. And it had been a year, 2 years had passed by, and I had still like had some of these tracks just like ready to go. And one day he was like, dude, you gotta just come into the studio and just lay it down. We gotta just start something. And so we did the first single, which was Smoke. And I mean, looking back now, obviously writing the new material, I'm way happier with the new stuff. But at the time, I was super stoked to be able to record that track with him. And that was kind of the start to all of it. And then him and I started writing the other tracks together in his basement studio. And then I think it was about like 8 months into the project. And I'd worked with Luc before on past stuff. Like he used to have a couple bands in the past I had done photo work for. And then he was playing bass in a music video that I filmed for, which was for a band from Toronto called Lost Boy. And I was like, yo, would you be down to maybe like play bass in my band? So Luc actually started playing bass in the band, and my friend Rob was playing guitar, and our drummer Alex. And then it came to a point where I, for some reason, didn't realize that Luc was like such a good guitarist at the time. I didn't really know. And then we always like joke about it, because I remember we always joke about it because Luc, he'll just come out to be like, dude, remember when you didn't know that I was like a sick guitarist? And I'm like, yeah, I honestly had no clue. I thought he was more of a producer who just like happened to play bass and guitar here and there.
Yeah.
But I guess most producers start as musicians, right?
For sure.
So then Luc started playing lead guitar, and then we were like, okay, let's find a bassist. And then at one point, Luc's studio partner, Kyle Marchand, was our bassist. So we were basically just running out of the studio, practicing in the studio like every week. And then so we had our debut show in May of last year, which was about, I guess, 10 months ago now. And it went really well, honestly. We ended up being able to, pack a decent room with like 100+ people. And we were like, maybe this could be a thing, like, I guess for me, at least, that was the moment where I was like, wait, I actually want to do this. Yeah. Because, people came out to see us, and I had never played. I had an old band before, but I had never played in front of 100 people. Like we used to play like crappy basements to like 20, 30
House
people.
parties.
And that
Right.
for me, that was, that was enough. Like I was like super happy with that. But then when we did this show, we had the lights, and we had all these people come out to see us, and we were just like, this is really fun.
Yeah,
and
it's an adrenaline
at that
rush.
point,
sure.
I remember just like looking at like Luc and Rob, and I was like, yo, we gotta do this, like actually try to do this.
Yeah.
And basically that's kind of what like sparked everything. And through the summer, I had like a pretty like rough breakup, which is what most EPs start as. And
right. Yeah,
I had a pretty rough, I kind of had like a rough summer, and me and Luc just bonded so much writing music together last summer. I remember just calling him one day, and for the next single coming up, and I called him, and I was like, dude, I need to come into the studio right now. Like I was like really depressed. I'm like, I really need to get the fuck to the studio.
Sure.
And within like 2 or 3 hours, we had a song, and it was like some of the stuff in the song was like the first take that I just like went into the booth, and it was like freestyle. And to this day, Luc doesn't show me his demos because he wants me to go in the booth and freestyle freaking lyrics like off the cuff. You know what I mean? Because like that's how it went for like a lot of the EP songs.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Luc, I know I introduced you as guitarist, but I did see you playing bass in in one of the videos.
Yeah.
So just so basically, I obviously you play bass, but talk about your role in the band. Because obviously you produce, and I understand that your new EP, Drowning, that's about to come out. You guys actually did all the producing and engineering, and then you did all that yourself. So talk about that.
Like Matt was saying, when the band kind of initially formed, we were more so just like, I guess you could say session musicians, everybody in the band. It was all, kind of put together as like, this is Matt's solo project and we're just filling in the gaps for live and, wherever he needs us. But
yeah.
I think because we had such good chemistry and, kind of like we're all friends outside of the band and everything, like we all knew each other prior. I think it just felt very natural for all of us. So once we played that first show with Matt playing, mostly like the old songs that he had written with the previous producer, Dan Bell, that's kind of when we all said like, okay, I think this should be an actual band. Like if everybody's up for it and like willing to put in the effort, like we should actually, migrate this from being a solo project to a full-fledged band and start branding ourselves as such. So yeah, at the time, Matt was trying out a couple different guitarists for lead guitar. And, like when Matt wrote the material, he was playing all the guitar himself, but he said he wanted to, just focus on doing vocals.
Sure.
So naturally, yeah, he picked me up as a bassist, but ironically, when I did meet Matt, it was on my band shoot, which I played guitar for. And I guess he didn't remember. So I always poke fun at him now because I'm like, that's literally how we met.
Okay, but the music video, okay, to be fair, the music video didn't have any playthrough in it that I was shooting on.
Oh,
it was
really?
like a story music video. So they were just there.
Sure.
Yeah,
right.
Matt was doing photos, behind the scenes photos. So he wasn't actually even shooting the music video.
Yeah.
Wow.
And okay, wait, and to also defend myself even more, the material that they were writing was more simplified than what I had written on the past material, and especially the new stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that Luc was like this like really, really good guitarist. Like, because I feel like anyone can play in a pop punk band, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
But like Luc is like a really, really good guitarist. So I didn't realize the extent of his skill. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, like, yeah, I was a guitarist all my life. That's my main instrument. I was just kind of playing bass for friends and stuff because it's a little easier and a little more fun.
Yeah.
Easier to pick up. But yeah, like we were saying, like producing's my actual day job, and I tend to play a lot of guitar on the records that I work on. So
yeah,
turned out that it was a perfect fit.
We'll talk about Toronto because I know I go up there for work quite often, and so but one of the things I'm impressed with is it's such a music city. I mean, it's a big city, but it's a lot of music in different genres. So it's talk about the genre though, the emo rock genre up there. Is that something that you have a lot of competition, or is that something that you can kind of put your footprint on? So I don't know, maybe Matt, if you want to talk about that.
This is kind of a crazy, like, I don't know, not crazy, but it's kind of a touchy subject in a way, because I feel like when I got into the Southern Ontario / Toronto, like, music scene when I was like 16 years old, like the emo scene was like popping, like Luc remembers, like it was like really, really popping, like some insanely good bands, some of which are like doing well now. Like Rarity is one name that like was like, now I feel like they're more like hard rock. But at the time, they were like emo pop punk, and they're doing really well now. Even like Arm's Length came out of like the late 2010s Ontario scene. Yeah. And I feel like right now it's not as big as it used to be. And I feel like especially for the Toronto area, like there's a band called Judgment right now that's like doing kind of like a similar sound-ish to what we're doing. They're more like 2000s emo revival, whereas like we're more grungy, kind of like leaning on that grungier side. But like, I feel like for us, at least, I don't feel like there's a lot of competition. I feel like it's more so we're kind of doing something that's a little bit different than what the other bands are doing.
I've tried my best to see it through, but the tables have turned and this has turned to blue skies and lullabies are waiting for you. Don't hold up, 'cause you'll see that I'm nothing to you.
Like Toronto's like the indie rock scene here is
for sure.
Probably the biggest scene, and then next to that would be like metal and hardcore.
Sure.
Is like the next like biggest scene. What do you think, Luke?
I would even say like back then, it was a lot of pop punk, and naturally because of that, like our band kind of gets coined into the pop punk sphere. Even though we do have like some similarities, like I think our goal is to at least carve our own lane in that sense, you know, because I think like while I enjoy all that music and I enjoyed all these bands that Matt had listed, I just felt like there was kind of this space that I see more so in like the US markets, but not as much in Canada, at least not now. I think like it's safe to say, you know, one of our biggest influences and one of like our best exports out of, you know, the Ontario scene would have been Alexis on Fire. And I haven't really seen another band do what they do, at least like to the depth that they do it. And so you know, I think like when we were writing and forming the band, that was kind of like the space we were looking to fill, because it feels like nothing's really like been in that same sphere in plenty of years anyways. So
yeah,
that's kind of where we sit.
Well, you know, when you produce too, Luke, you know, I'm sure you produce not just, you know, your type of music, but you probably do other genres. I mean, if that's your job, you probably have other people coming in doing different types of genres. And do you feel that, you know, do you get inspired by other people's music that come in and do maybe a different genre that might help you maybe write music for your own band, or maybe put a different twist on it? Do you ever see like different genres that does it kind of help you kind of think of different things? Does that make sense?
Well, actually, like the funny thing is I would say like I was primarily more of a metal guy. Like I played in metal bands all through my teenage years. That's kind of like the sphere that I feel like I'm most well known for in our scene anyways.
Sure.
Even though I do, you know, plenty of different genres and styles. But the interesting thing is I find like even with NAKEDBURN, like most of our fans are actually metal fans and metal bands, I would say, or like a good chunk of them.
Sure.
So when I am producing and like I do talk to these bands and, you know, we obviously talk about our experiences together, like funny enough, like a lot of them have even offered to like write with me and, and like kind of want a piece of the pie, because
Sure.
I feel like we cater to this genre that is a little more accessible than, you know, like what these metal bands and harder acts are doing.
Right.
But it's very adjacent to that scene and that culture, you know, that would have been very predominant in like the early 2000s. So yeah, like funny enough, like I find like it's almost like a melting pot, you know, with our scene and the bands that I work with, despite what I was saying about there
Sure.
not being a band necessarily in our space.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and Matt, talk about the writing piece of it, because you know, I with a band, do you have a lot of collaboration between all of you, or do you write most of the music, or how does that work?
So I think that like moving forward, we want to have like a more bigger collaboration with all the members of the band.
Yeah.
But for the EP specifically, Jaded, I would say was a collaboration between me, Luke, and Rob. But Luke kind of comes to us mostly for as of right now with the like instrumentals a lot of the times. But the three other songs on the EP, which are going to be Balance, Drowning, and Pain, those three songs, I just went into the studio. Like I said, I called Luke, "Well, let's go to the studio." And me and Luke just wrote those songs on the spot, like within, like I said, like 2 to 4 hours per song. Like, and in
Which
a
is
way,
unheard of
like,
mostly. Yeah.
yeah, like I feel like that's when the best songs come out. And I feel like
Yeah.
we just had this like crazy flow going on between us in the summer. I don't know what it was, but like we were on something. And every time we go in the studio and then we send it to the band after, right?
Yeah.
It would just be like, you guys fucking cooked another one.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and we just like, we didn't know what the hell was going on. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was just a combination between like, that like initial adrenaline of starting the band together.
Yeah.
And we were just like on this high through the summer and we were just like so excited. And I was so excited to write. And like I said, I was going through that breakup, right? So it's like
Yeah.
instant material.
I mean, you know, obviously that doesn't happen all the time, but you mentioned one song in there as a new single called Balance. That's going to be on the EP. So and I think that's coming out before the EP. Is that correct? So
Yeah,
talk about that song a little bit.
So Balance is a song, like I said, me and Luke wrote together when I was having like a really bad day.
That's the song. Yeah.
That was the one where I called him and I was just like, man, like I need to get into the studio right now. And I think at the time I had like a really bad conversation with like my ex-girlfriend like 2 days before. And I was just like ruminating on it. And I was just thinking about how like this fucking breakup, like the relationship was like haunting me like so much. Like I couldn't like figure out what to do or like how to move forward from it. And so that's like kind of like what the song is about. Just, you know, it's a lot of breakup songs out there, but like this one's really about just like needing that love from that specific person. And like every time that you talk to them, it just gets reignited in you and like it's just making it like worse and worse.
Right.
And I think that this honestly is our favorite song on the whole EP. Like we kind of all agree on that. And I feel like it captures like what almost like I've been missing from the emo scene for a long time.
Sure.
And like I remember when me and Luke wrote it, we were just like, dude, this is like what we've been wanting to make like for years, you know what I mean? It was just one of those things where like we made it, we listened to it and we're like, this is exactly what I think we need to do because it's heavy, it's like emotional, it's like intimate, and it just captures like pretty much everything about what the band is supposed to be and what we want to be moving forward. And I think the biggest thing too is like it's genuine. Like that's the biggest part is like it's true to like what we want and what we want to make. And we weren't thinking about like what's gonna like get big on TikTok like when we wrote the song. Like
it was almost like it was meant to be how it came together so quickly. And I think, you know, for our listeners out there, you know, we can't wait for them to hear this. So do you know about when it's going to come out? I mean, this is dropping. I know we're recording this on the 23rd, but it's probably going to be dropped in a couple weeks. So really, when is this coming out? I mean, do you know the date or approximate?
Right now, we're still figuring out the premiere date, but
right.
It's like mid to late March.
There you go. Okay, so everybody be watching for that. You know, the other thing too is the videos. I want to get into the videos a little bit. Music video director. I've done it for a lot of years. That was a long time ago, but you know, I know good work when I see it, and you do some really, really good work. And I want to say that Matt, you do a lot of the directing, right, in the videos and the shooting, and so talk about your process with that, because you know, watching your videos, I mean, the production quality is really good, as your music is too. So talk about you know, kind of coming up with the concepts, I guess, for your videos, because they're all really well done.
Yeah. So just to say that some of the past videos were also in collaboration with one of my old business partners too, Alex McFarland. So shout out to him. He helped to do the camera work on Blue Sky, Smoke, and the Lie Awake music video. And those are some like one of my favorite videos as well too. And like me and him would kind of like cook ideas together and kind of go from there. But the newer material, so the Jaded music video, we kind of just had an idea to go around the city and try to like represent Toronto.
Imaginary pain. I've been feeling so much shame. Don't tempt me, I'm neck deep. Just tie that rope around me. So empty, feeling devoid of love. Searching for clarity, drench me in apathy. I'm feeding into my own hell. Singing lullabies to help myself fall asleep at night. I'm feeding into my own hell.
Yeah.
And just kind of do like a DIY but still like pro style production video.
Right.
And so I would say like I directed it, but it was kind of the band directing it too, because we were all out there in the streets, and we got one of our friends, Kaylin, to come and shoot and camera operate it. And it just came together like so quickly that night. And Rob's car got broken into that night too. So it was just like a riot of a night.
Wow.
But I think the main thing that I would say is like all the vertical video content and stuff. I feel like one of my main roles in the band is to kind of like handle the social media and the vertical video content. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm proud of like how much like vertical content like we're able to put out, especially with this like day and age with social media. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people like are very like noticing of how we're able to keep pumping out this content. It's because I'll bring my camera out to practices, we'll put them up, like get some lighting going, and then I'll come home, edit it together with the lyrics, and we'll do that for multiple locations. And just to keep that like aesthetic for the band,
Sure.
to keep everything like looking professional and looking proper. And then the new music video Balance, Rob and I, the other guitarist, co-directed it together. And then we had a camera operator, Cam, to come, and we got Mike to rent out his dad's office, which is like an old age, like century home.
Yeah.
And so we went there one night at like 6 p.m. and we ended up leaving at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And so
Wow.
we have this new music video out, and it's kind of going to be about, it kind of touches on the subject of the song where it's like, a ghostly kind of womanly figure is kind of like haunting like me and the band in the video, and it's very like horror-esque kind of style, and like old like 2010s kind of post-hardcore music video style. So
Love that. Well, very well done. And Luke, I want to talk to you about some advice that you might have for our budding artists out there. A lot of people that listen are just indie artists that are just getting started. But, from your producing background and your playing background, what kind of advice do you have somebody, we get kind of specific, somebody that wants to record, their music, but they don't maybe, have the equipment in their house, and they want to, come to you, and, they don't know what to do. So basically somebody new, what kind of advice would you have for somebody like that just getting started?
Regardless of the scenario, for recording, whether it's like a buddy's basement or myself or, whatever, I think the main thing that I always tell bands is really get to know your material, know it inside out, know everybody else's parts if you play in a band, if you can, to some degree anyways, because a lot of times, when I work with artists, especially if it's their first time in the studio, one of the biggest hurdles that I tend to repeatedly come by is, band members will think their guitarist played something a certain way, but then the bassist is playing it differently, or they didn't realize that the lyrics were, whatever it is. So to avoid any of those issues and not waste time in the studio, especially if there is a lot of money going into it, it really helps to know your material inside and out. And also while doing that, just make sure you're very open to the process. Like I said, doesn't matter who you're working with. If you are working with somebody or by yourself, like just be open to criticism, be open to potential changes that might happen, because no matter how prepared you are, there will be moments in the studio where inspiration kicks in, or something's just not translating the way you thought it would, and so a change needs to happen. And like part of my job as a producer, when you hire me, is to really help the band discover what their identity is, what their sound is, and sort of help guide the band from point A to point B. So I'm going to throw suggestions. I'm going to really dig deep and try and get to the root of what actually makes your music good and sort of what makes the band tick as a whole. So it really helps when I work with musicians who are very open to the process. Like I'm not trying to make your song bad. I'm not trying to change who the band is. I'm just trying to help, like I said, get to that same end goal that we're all after, which is, making the best possible music that we can. So I would say that's probably my number one piece of advice. And honestly, like from there, it translates to everything. Because once you get that ball rolling, once everybody knows how to work together, I think that's when bands really come together and start doing really cool things. I
agree. And then, Matt, I just want to get into this with you, because with social media, with streaming platforms now that are available that weren't before, like a long time ago, that everybody has the availability to do, how do you think, how do you navigate, your music, and when is a good time to put it out? And when do you think, because it's all timing really, do you look at other music that's similar and when that's being released, and do you kind of, you wait a little bit sometimes to make sure that it's not saturated in that market, that emo market, or how do you decide when you're going to put music out?
Honestly, my advice for any band would be like, the time is now, basically, at any moment, because I feel like this is the biggest gripe I have with musicians, is for them, their song is never right. It's never the right time to put it out. It's never perfect. Like that's the biggest thing I see with musicians in general. I'm sure, Luc, you see the same thing.
Perfectionist,
like,
yeah.
Bands will record a song and they'll be sitting on it for a year, 2 years, even a music video.
Yeah.
They'll get a music video shot a year, 2 years, and they're like, oh, it's not the right time. It's like the longer you wait, you're procrastinating it. Just put it out, honestly. And like, I think the biggest piece of advice I've seen too is Tyler, the Creator. He had a video on a podcast, I guess, or something, where he was saying that he's still promoting his album he dropped 2 years ago, right? So there's never, especially with TikTok now and Instagram, there's never not a time where you can make even one of your old songs blow up. Like if I really believed in the old music, like a lot, I could go and shoot 20 vertical videos for my old songs, and we could post them all on Instagram and help them get a bunch of streams and hopefully like blow them up or whatever. So I think the biggest thing is like just put it out, honestly. And if you already have a release plan, I think they're saying now like 6 to 8 weeks every single is like the industry standard right now. If you want to keep growing, like every 6 to 8 weeks, you should be putting out a new single with a music video, and then ready with 20 to 30 pieces of content to push for the next like month and a half. And then you start over, right? To the next song. Like, I think, but like saying that, that's if you're trying for like the top level of like promotion and stuff, right? Like, and a lot of bands get really overwhelmed with that. Like, I know a lot of bands are like, I don't want to do this like I'm sure you hear all the time, like a lot of bands, they don't want to do this like content shit, and they're like, I don't want to be a TikToker. Like, that's your choice. Like, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But the proof is in the pudding. If you want to be a big band and you want to grow, that is part of the game. Like, if you don't want to admit that, that's totally up to you. But like, so my piece of advice is to musicians, is to put it out, swallow your pride, and get on camera. Honestly, get on camera, make yourself personable with your audience, make people love you for your music and for who you are. Because everyone has something to like, to love. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's got a personality that's lovable, and they have a character inside them. Show it to people, because when I was young, man, like I used to watch these documentaries about bands making their albums. I used to love like just listening to them talk. I'd like look up John Frusciante interview, like Lane Staley interview, like Chris Cornell, like all these like big names, right? And I would fall in love with them and like what they would say on these, on these interviews, even though they were like drugged out half the time. But like I would like I would love to listen to them talking, right? And like I would love to get to know their personality. I'm like, okay, who's behind this like masterpiece of a song? You know what I mean? So like
absolutely. No, you're right. I love that because, I think a lot of times it's funny because, since I've been doing the podcast, which is about 6 years now, I was doing videos of just me, kind of promoting what was coming up. And I got more hits on that with my face on the screen than I was getting hits on my audio podcast. I was getting more like hits on them watching me talk about what's coming up, or talking about my experiences with celebrities or whatever from doing music videos. So that was something that I'm glad you said that, because that's great advice. And then Luc, talking from your producing and everything that you do, talk about the importance of what you guys are doing right now in this podcast, because you reached out to me to be on the show and you guys were on time, you were early. And talk about the importance of that piece of the business, because you can't just play music. You can't just sing. You can't just write. You actually have to put it all together as a business, right? So music is a business. That's why they call it the music business. So talk about being a business person when it comes to your band, and not just playing the music, but also doing the other parts like podcasts and radio shows and whatever else is out there.
I think Matt touched on it a little bit, but the point being is, if you're making music and you're trying to get your music heard by an audience, like the best way, the real ticket to getting to people to actually go and click and listen to your music on Spotify or whatever, is to put your personality out there, because that's what people are really connecting with. Like if somebody even gets an inkling of liking your music and liking what you do, I'm sure they want to know more about you. And like I find sometimes that's actually what wins people over, versus the millions of other bands that are out there, is like they really connect with the personality. They can relate to you. They can take what you say on like a podcast like this and relate it to the actual music and like get to know, where it came from a little more in depth. So, like I every band I've ever played in, and this is also the reason why I was the one who reached out to you, is like, I'll just go and sit on Instagram or whatever, YouTube, and I'll take notes of, who's doing what, and, who's kind of like available for podcasts or interviews and all that thing. And I'll just reach out, like I'll just shoot a message, shot in the dark. Like I don't expect anything big from it, but I just want to be able to share, more about the actual band and get it on a wider platform, however I can. And I feel like a lot of people are just too afraid to do that. They feel like, nobody really cares about what I have to say, but the truth is like, we're all living the human experience right now. So, it's good to share that with everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, that's really good advice from both of you guys. And before we end here, I'm gonna ask you first, Matt. But when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be way at the end of the road?
I don't even know, man. I think honestly, like I feel like in a weird way, what we've already been able to do in this short amount of time is so fulfilling. Like just like we did this like little like run back in December called Emo Christmas, and it was our like cute little branding of what our little like weekender trip across the highway in Ontario. And honestly, those 3 days was some of the best 3 days. Honestly, I don't even care of my whole life. Like I remember like we played this house show in London, and those fucking college kids, man, holy fuck. They were crazy. They were actually insane. They were like crowd surfing. They were going nuts. Like they're crazy. And like I was sick. I could barely sing. My voice was lost. I was so sick. Rob was sick. He was like puking earlier. But like it was the craziest. It was one of the craziest nights. And like I think after it's all said and done, I just want people to know that like we put everything that we could like into this, and like we put our like hearts into our music, and like we put on the best live show that we can. And I hope people can like take home with them that like, I don't know, start a band. Honestly, start a band with your friends, and doesn't matter how fucking old you are too. That's the biggest thing too. Because honestly, when I was like 20, I used to think like if I started a band when I was like, I'm going to be 27 this year. Most of the band's like 30. And I never thought that it would make sense to do it. But honestly, this is the best time to do it. Yeah. And so just start a band and make music and never stop like loving music, because music is like everything.
Yeah, I love that. That's so well said. How about you, Luke? What about you? What do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I do this for work, and I'm very involved with the music scene. So I think the way I'm looking at this in the band and everything is like I'm just trying to leave a wide legacy of doing music in all different styles. And I think Naked Burn's just been my I've chosen to play in Naked Burn and write with Naked Burn and do everything I'm doing. It's because I feel like this has just been the truest expression of like how I always wanted to put out music, and I guess like put my stamp in the music world. So I don't know if I have like any real like legacy goal. I'm just kind of just going with the flow and just enjoying every second of it, because this is just everything I do, right? I've been doing this since I was in like elementary school, and it's just kind of
your life.
It's just my life. I always lived and breathed music. I've always been writing music, even if it's not come out or whatever. Like that's pretty much all I care about. And I guess like as a band, my goal and the general band's goals, like we just want to get it to the widest audience possible. I don't care if anybody likes it or not. Like I just want to put it out there and do what I can with it.
Yeah. Well, I thank you both for that, answering that question, because sometimes I get different answers, but I like them both, and I appreciate that. So just want to, before we stop here, I just want to say Balance is a new single coming out soon, so everybody watch for that, all streaming platforms. Drowning is also coming out early this summer, called Drowning. So be watching for that as well, and we'll promo it on our show as well, and we'll put it out on our social media. So again, Matt and Luke, thank you for joining us from Naked Burn, and my best to you in your future, and I know it's a bright one, so best of luck to you.
Thanks, Dave.